What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 17 of Park to Prem here with Nottingham Forest. Today, the transfer window has swung open, and we're going to be taking on West Ham in a game that really could cement our European credentials. It's a very weird year in the Premier League. Everyone is beating everyone, but before we look too hard at the league, I feel like we should have a little look at the teams that we've been at in the past. See how they're getting on. Lincoln City and, of course, Boston. And, well, for Lincoln City, they are continuing to establish themselves as a championship club. They're currently sat in 17th, beyond the halfway point. They are still within a little bit of risk of going down. Interesting to note that Stoke, of course, the team we played in the semi-final just a couple of years ago, sitting rock bottom of the league. It's not a happy hunting ground for Stoke, the championship right now. Elsewhere, Norwich City and West Brom going very strong in the league. And, well, as for Boston United, they are currently up in third, but with a game in hand that could take them into the automatic promotion spots. What a cool little story that could be to see Boston United making it into the Championship. Of course, they've had a couple of really good years. One where they made the playoff, one where they missed out by just 1 point. It looks like they could well make the next step this year and continue on their upwards climb. And well, speaking of upwards climbs, we have been playing very well for the most part. I will say now, after the Man City result, I was really hoping that we were going to crack on. And we just didn't, to be frank. You can see here, the month of December has been intense. So far, the month of January has been a little bit better. So, well, let's have a look at this. The first game we had was against Everton. We lost this one 2-1. Sekker did get a goal. And as you'll notice over this run of games, Sekker's been back in the goal-scoring kind of form, I suppose. He's got 8 goals so far in the Premier League. Which, to be honest, if he can get to double figures, I'd be very, very happy with that from him. He's been playing out on the left attacking mid position for the most part. You can see here his average rating isn't particularly good. I think some of that is down to all the sub appearances, but also he has these games where he's a big player for us, and he has these other ones where he just vanishes. And well, for 85 minutes of this game against Newcastle, our team did vanish. Yeah, this was a weird one. They took the lead in this game through Dolo in the 19th minute. And to be honest, when Christian Pavon scored for them in the 85th, my head kind of dropped. But I threw the players kind of slightly more attacking for, well, we've got nothing to lose now. And in the last 3 minutes of the game, we mustered up 2 goals to secure a 2-2 draw. The first was a penalty from Wilson Sekker. The second from Finn Amlo. And, well, Finn, he's pretty blooming good. He got a goal in this game to secure us a point. And whilst the kind of goal that he scored in the very next game did secure us a point, it was slightly different circumstances. Against an Arsenal team who have been struggling massively, we took the lead in the 81st minute. I felt like we'd been the better team. I thought that was going to be the game. They went all-out attack, tried to get back into it, and John Hegarty scored against us. And if John Hegarty kind of rings a bell, it's because he's a player we had on loan in my very first season at Nottingham Forest, and I terminated his loan and sent him back to Arsenal. In this game, they used him as kind of a makeshift right winger for the kind of dying moments of the game, and he scored. So, yeah, former player coming back to haunt me. Annoying, but we move. I mean, a draw against Arsenal away from home under any other circumstances would be a good result, given the fact we were ahead going into, the last kind of 5 minutes of the game, and that we hadn't won in any of our previous kind of 2 games, and our recent form as a whole have been patchy. It did feel a bit like a disappointment. Anyway, against Leeds United, we got a really emphatic 3-0 win at Ellen Road. A couple of goals in extra time. Sekker with 1, Dr. Medj with a goal, and also Amlo continuing to look really good for us. 11 goals, 4 assists for him. Yeah, the young German forward, he looks like a revelation. In the next game, goals were hard to come by, but a better performance defensively as we drew 0-0 against Crystal Palace. And we followed that up with a 3-0 win in the FA Cup. Bit of rotation in this one, good result, and that bled forward and onwards into the Wolverhampton Wanderers game where we won 2-0, our 4th clean sheet in a row in all competitions. Really good performance in this one. Stevie Secker getting a goal for us, Finn getting a goal in the second half. Of course, Wolverhampton Wanderers we lost 2-1 against in the very first game of the season, you might remember, so it was good to get a bit of revenge against them at home, and we followed that home win up with another home win, this time against Southampton, and on this occasion it was Sekker to the rescue. I say to the rescue, he got the goals. We were never really in danger. Both goals coming before half-time. Kind of quite typical Sekker goals. Despite being out on the left wing, makes his way into the middle, gets in the right area, scored pretty much tap-ins from up close. Adrian Smith did get sent off for us in this game, and then Burek Ince scored for them, whilst Amani Grimes was getting treatment for an injury. So we had 9 players on the pitch, but against Southampton, who are bottom of the league, we managed to hold on. A 2-1 win. And while that gives us some good form going into today's tricky game against West Ham. Yeah, West Ham, of course, they've got that tycoon takeover that I've talked about before. They're a good team. Their pre-season billing was 11th, actually, which feels a little low because last year they finished up in 12th. And right now they sit in 8th. I thought they were, due to finish a bit higher than that. Anyway, if we just look at the league table, it's a really weird season. We are 1 point off Leicester. We currently sit in 4th, but the reality is that this is a season where all the teams outside, really, the top 2 have been slipping up constantly. Liverpool, 9 wins, 8 defeats. They sit in 7th with that kind of record. It's a bizarre year which sees a very, very compact mid-table, which I feel like for the most part we're steering clear of for now. Although, if we lose here, we would get pulled into this mess of teams in the middle. So we want a win here. Hopefully we're going to be able to get it. And well, before we talk about that game in any more detail, shall we have a look at some transfers, everyone? Because yes, the transfer window is open. In terms of outs, a couple of players leaving us. Will Byrne has ended up going to Middlesbrough. This is a guy who's been sat in the reserves for a few years. A good player, but he was just never going to play for us. He's just not good enough for us. So we got a couple of million for him. And Hamsang OK, the Korean centre-back, has got a work permit now. But as part of his kind of continued development, he has secured a loan at Celta Vigo, which is hopefully going to serve him well. Regular first-team football, playing in the Spanish top flight. He looks like a pretty good defender for the most part, maybe lacking a little bit in the mentals department, but keen to track his development, and I think first-team football is going to be really important for him. The final player who we've let go on loan this kind of January thus far is Quizzer, who you may remember we signed, I think, at the start of last year. He was a bit of a punt at the time, a player who I kind of signed with the future in mind, and he has now gone on loan to Chicago in MLS. We'll see how he gets on. His development's been a bit stagnant. He's not kicked on quite as I'd hoped. Will be interesting to see how he gets on over the course of the next year. Anyway, on the ins, a few players have joined us, and for the most part, it's freebies for the future. The first we have is another Turkish player. So alongside Erk, we've also got Mentese here, who is 18 years old, Turkish under-21 goalkeeper. His kind of contract at Galatasaray was a junior one, so we approached to sign him. Tiny bit of compensation, I think, paid for him. But he's a really, really good goalkeeper. At 18 years old, I think he was injury prone and I think he was inconsistent. I think they were 2 cons. With him just joining us, we don't know about them yet. But you know what? For a freebie, it's a risk-free transfer and he looks very, very good. And well, the other player we signed on a freebie was Liam Cooper, who is a Canadian right-back. He's 18 years old. He was released by Toronto FC. He was actually on trial with Manchester City, which is how he popped up on my radar. And whilst, there's some question marks over his potential, at 18 years old, he looks like a really good right-back. And to be honest, of all the areas in the team, right back was the area we were lacking in. Of course, Roger has been our starting right back. We then have Matt Smith, who can also play right back, but he's a little unhappy at the moment with his first team football. But besides these 2 players, I didn't have a right back option. So whilst Liam Cooper, he's definitely a downgrade compared to those 2 players, ultimately, for a third choice right back, Canadian international, 18 years old, on a free, I'm going to be quite content taking that. Anyway, the last of the players we've signed is the Polish centre mid we signed from Legia years ago. He's finally turned 18 years old, so he can join us. We paid £1 million for him. Looks like a good little player. It's a low-risk investment for the future. Worst case scenario, I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to sell him on for a little bit of profit after only £1 million being spent on him. Looking at transfers as well, I have made a couple of other deals. We've talked about Daniel before, but Daniel Dionisi is a English goalkeeper. He's been one we've been waiting for a while. He's going to join us in the summer, and a player who's going to be joining us in a year and a half's time is Stefan Hahn from Augsburg. Of course, this guy, another one of the Augsburg faithful, everyone. I feel like we're just raiding Augsburg at the moment. I think this is the 3rd player we've signed from them in the last 6 months. He was listed as their hot prospect, 20 determination, 16 years old, Austrian under-21 international. I think at a glance, there's a hell of a lot to like, and for only 1.3 million, we have that kind of money to spend, and it's all about bolstering our youth team, I feel like, at this point. So anyway, they're kind of the signings that we've made. In terms of team and how we're performing, we're doing really well. I've talked about Samake's recent rise in form and how he's really become a player to depend on. One player who I feel like has fallen completely out of favour to the point where I've not really mentioned him. It's not Healey, although the irony being that I'm getting players muddled up here. It's Gary Healey, the H's. We've got too many players with H's in their last names. Do you remember this guy? Played him at centre-back once by accident. Yeah, that was an error. At 23 years old, he's been an okay player for us for a few years. There was a point where I was offered 20 million for him, which I turned down. Obviously, in our first season in the Championship, he was really, really important for us. In the kind of last season, he kind of fell out of favour. This year, with the change in system, he's just kind of completely fallen off the radar, to be honest. The kind of player who I'm keeping around because he's English and because homegrown players are kind of useful to have in terms of homegrown in nation. But long story short, he's just not really good enough for the first team. He's an outstanding deep line playmaker. There's a world in which I'd play him, but of course, with our deep line playmaker now playing as a defensive midfielder, the main kind of training focus right now is getting him playing that position. But he strikes me as the kind of player who has kind of fulfilled his potential. He's not going to get a whole lot better, and he's right on the fringes of, is he actually good enough for a team playing in the Premier League? I'm inclined to say no. And at 23 years old, he's not exactly a kid anymore, put it that way. But the rest of the team's looking really good. There is only one big down note, really, and that is the fact that the African Cup of Nations is going on. I hate AFCON. Did they rearrange it to be in the summer once and then change it back? I think they did. Either way, Steve Secker, he's representing South Africa for the next month. So one of our star players, debatably the best player in our team, I mean, when you look at the average ratings, he's been comfortably the best player on the pitch. He's just AWOL for a month. And given it's a month where we have a hell of a lot of big games going on, I'm looking at the likes of Everton, Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester United. It would be the kind of game that would be quite nice to have him for. Of all the areas in the pitch that I think we've been struggling in, I think the wide attacking mid department's been the big one. Prior to Samake finding form, really, it was all about Secker and it was all about Amlo in the final third. It was kind of a dual act of Amlo and Secker on the right, and then the left mid was kind of whoever was around. Obviously, Samake has really settled into that role. I had previously given chances to Brewster. You can see he's had 6 starts and 4 sub-appearances. That is an absolutely awful average rating. It's not a dissimilar story either with Alex Myton. I think of all the positions in the team right now in January, the area that I might look to invest in is the left attacking mid position. While Samake's been good, and we have also got Erk, who is learning to play left attacking mid, I think when you compare the performances of players we played out on the left compared to the player on the right and the player in the middle, there's quite a big gulf in quality just on the whole. Anyway, in terms of team news for today's game, with Secker away on international duty, we're looking at Erk to make the step up. He has slowed down a little bit over the last month or so since you were last here. Prior to that, he'd been an absolutely outstanding player in the team who I was really struggling to justify dropping. Elsewhere in the team, Adrian Smith is unfortunately suspended for today's game, so Dr. Medj is going to come in to play alongside Ricketts. I will say now, Ricketts has been absolutely outstanding this year. Really, really liked what he's brought to the team, the number 53. I know people who like normal numbering probably absolutely hate the fact he's got the number 53, but he's been really, really good for us. He looks like an outstanding bit of business. Obviously, £32.5 million is not cheap, but right now he's been pretty essential to how we play. Elsewhere, I think Matteus Fernandez is a player who's kind of flown under the radar, perhaps not got the credit that he deserves playing deep line playmaker. His average ratings haven't been superb, but he never really seems to put a foot wrong. He's not a player having these critical errors that lead to, highlights of other teams. Of course, at the back, the defence has remained largely unchanged. Sarr has really made left back his own this year. Obviously, a bit of a change in role for him. He is naturally a centre-back, but when we signed him, we knew that the left-back position was an area he could fill in for. Obviously, Piotr's been absolutely fantastic. He's been top draw, been a weapon from set pieces. Damani Grimes has stepped up this year. Great to see him as a squad leader performing well. You can see his 7.4 rating for him in his last 5 games. And obviously, Roger's also done really well at right-back. So well done, Roger. Round of applause for him, please. Not the best kind of right back defensively, but bringing the ball forward, he's been so good for us. In goal, you will notice that Stokes is back in the team today. I've got this weird situation, I feel like, at the moment with Chris Molyneux and Stokes. I'm really not sure which the best player is for our team right now. They've both kind of been average, to the point where if I can't find one this kind of winter transfer window, certainly going into next summer, I think a really big goalkeeper has to be kind of top of the shopping list. I think elsewhere in the team, every other position I can kind of look at and go, we've got a young player who's going to come through in that spot, or we've got, a first team player who I'm more than happy to have in the team play in that position going into Europe. I think the goalkeeping position is perhaps the odd one out in that regard. It's the area where I don't feel like I've got a long-term solution there just yet. I say that all of that, of course, we've just got our new Turkish goalkeeper, and if we drop down to the under-23s, there are lots of players with some very good potential. So maybe I need to start looking inwards. If you're wondering, Akamash deserves a little mention. Of course, he was a player we signed last year from Barcelona. He's been out on loan playing for Lens this season, and he's done pretty well. He's been playing in the Europa League, playing in Ligue 1. His value is slowly but surely creeping up. He's the kind of player who's doing exactly what I want him to do whilst he's out on loan. He is upping his value, currently valued at £23 million. I'd quite like to cash in on him maybe going into the summer. And also Dennis Hoffman, who of course is at Dusseldorf. He looks really good, everyone. I'm very excited by Dennis Hoffman. Of course, at 20 years old, he's not exactly a kid by any means, but playing regular first-team football in the Bundesliga too. He's looking like he could be a really good player for the price that we've ended up paying for him. Anyway, that's a little bit of an update as to how things are going at the club. Of course, we've still got a whole lot of money in the bank, 36 million. Worth noting that with our promotion to the Premier League and our current wage spend, we're pretty much breaking even every month, which is better than what I expected, to be honest. If you've ever managed in the Premier League, you'll know that, you get a lot of TV money throughout the year, but at the end of the season, there's always a big lump sum of cash that just kind of lands in your lap. Right now, we are operating as a very sustainable Premier League club, almost in a slightly weird way. It's pretty unusual for you to just have such a flat financial graph in Football Manager over an extended period. Of course, if we can make it into Europe, that would open up some new revenue streams. But right now, I'm not feeling a massive pressure to go out there and improve the team massively. I feel like the team that we've got is good, and if we just keep playing the way that we're playing, if players keep developing the way that they're playing and the way they're developing, I don't necessarily need to worry about making any big statement signings this January. But anyway, let's get our head into the game. We are taking on West Ham United. This is a really good opportunity for us to pull clear of one of the teams who are really challenging for the European spots. A win here, and the cushion gets bigger. And I feel like that cushion needs to be made bigger here, really, because we've got some really tough games coming up on the horizon over the rest of the month of January. Anyway, West Ham have lost 3 of their last 5 games. They have been a team in decline. Hopefully, we're going to be able to capitalise on that. I feel like this month's going to be tricky without Secker, but Amlo. I think Amlo can do it, everyone. I feel like he's the kind of player who can step up and he can save us. He can be our difference maker. Anyway, we've got an early set piece here. Ricketts whips it in. Damani Grimes is there. Heads it just over the crossbar, but a good early opportunity for us. You can see they are playing a 4-2-3-1. I feel like our 4-3-3 really plays nicely into that. The deep line playmaker shuts down a lot of the creative potential of the centre attacking mid. And given the prevalence, I suppose, the formation we're coming up against here, in league games, it's something we see on a very common basis, just shutting down playmakers in the centre attacking mid position. I say all of this, of course, they are on the attack, so we need to brace ourselves here. Kabongo whips it into Aldo, and oh my word, what a tackle that was. It's not going to be enough. Who was that? I think it was Roger. Roger has had a daydream. He's then put in an incredible tackle, but unfortunately, the ball just kind of squirms away back into the path of Amlo. Oh, not Amlo. Aldo. Kabongo to Aldo. All the does. It's unfortunate. Could Stokes have done better? Maybe. I feel like the 3D representation of goalkeepers' attempts to save chances always makes it look way worse than it is. But hey, that is just Football Manager. Anyway, Johnson bringing it forward for them. A tackle flies in, but much like the first goal, it falls straight back to West Ham United, who are going to continue on the attack here. Kabongo to Cox, the right back, on the overlap. Cutting inside, Sarr, do not foul. Ball whipped in, Aldo scores a second. And it's Roger at the back post. Roger, are you okay, mate? You look like you're being pocketed by Aldo. Just didn't offer enough physicality at the back post. Cox afforded time and space to bring the ball in. Well, it's a nice movement, to be fair, by the attacker, but I don't know. Roger, got to be more aware of your surroundings there, pal. I feel like I've just bigged him up in the pre-match bit, and we look at this game and you could argue that the two are on his shoulders. West Ham with 2 shots in the first 20 minutes. Unfortunately for us, they have both found the back of the net. Either way, still plenty of time left in this game. We're not going to panic too soon here. I don't feel like tactically they are masterminding us and outplaying us. They are edging possession, but it's a game that really hasn't had too many opportunities either way. They've just taken those that came their way. They make it free before half-time. It starts to get ugly. Aldo whips it in. It's cleared off the line by... I'm not sure who that was cleared off the line by, but it's away from danger. At half-time, it's 2-0. I'm far from pleased. I am really tempted. I am really tempted to go to the 3-4-3. Is that a silly idea? That's what I've got to decide myself here. Samake can come in. Sarr... Shuffling everyone around. Sarr, left-footed. Peter Schack. Grimes, that's fine. You can't play left mid or right mid. Oh, you can play right mid. I might take off Roger. Roger's not had a good game, has he? And I need to bring on a left winger anyway. Although Medj can play left winger. You know what? We'll go with that. You'll also notice this doesn't have defensive wingers anymore. We're going on the offensive, everyone. Right. Is there anyone I need to move here? Is everyone... Oh, okay. Roger, you're coming off. Leighton Stewart, I'm putting faith in you today, pal. This might backfire spectacularly, but I want to go on the offensive. The defensive wingers have gone. We've got wingers on attack. Can we make something happen? That is the question. There's been a game where we've not really had any highlights. West Ham have had a few opportunities, taken them, and that's kind of been that. Anyway, it's Erk, the right winger, to launch the ball forward. Keeper underneath it collects. And well, we're going to have to get back into position and back into shape. Of course, playing this system, we do leave ourselves exposed at the back, but we've got to go for it at some point. Aldo going to be looking for a hat-trick, potentially, and he ain't going to get it with efforts like that. It goes wide of the mark, it hits the physios who are just sat like tennis ball boys in the corner. But if you were hoping for kind of... I suppose, some kind of attacking return from our changing system. It's not really happened yet, although Ricketts to whip it in. It's headed away to Arrowsmith, and it's a 2-on-2 at the back, everyone. Remain calm. Remain calm. This is not good. This is terrible. This is bad. This is bad. It's gone over. Right, instructions. More direct. Stop playing it out from the back. Let's play narrow. Let's puncture a hole through the middle. If we can. I want us to press high. I want us to press hard. But I'm going to level with you. It's not been a great game. We've lacked a plan B. We've lacked... I feel like a player to have an impact in this game, really. We've not really even had a moment of brilliance to get us back in it, which is almost what I feel like this game is begging for from our perspective. West Ham with possession, holding on to it well. We're trying to press harder, but of course... Naturally, with our current shape, we are leaving ourselves slightly vulnerable at the back. Arrowsmith with it to Aldo. And I mean, it's really nicely worked. Peter Schack makes a huge tackle, but it's not away from danger. Sarr heads it out now. I feel like we're just trying to fend them off. Can we keep it going, though? They've got men in the middle. They are stacking up. Kabongo hits it. Stokes maybe got a hand to it. It's hit the woodwork. I've got subs to make. I'm not sure they're going to make much of a difference, but let's bring in Orojo and let's bring in Myton. Fresh legs in the wide midfield area. And you know what? While we're here, just go for it, lads. Matteus Fernandez, drop deeper. Ricketts. You know what? There comes a time in every manager's life where you kind of just have to say, we've got to go for it now. And I think that time probably came about 5 minutes ago, and I'm reacting a little late here. But let's throw some men forward, see what we can do here. We're in that situation where nothing's really worked today, so why not try something absolutely mad? Declan Rice with it for West Ham. Whips it into Varela. It's headed away though. Could we break? I mean, we've got lots of men forward if we could get the counter going. Johnson with it though. In the wide area. Do not let him whip it in. It's blocked away. Could we get there? No, we're just second to every ball in this match. Aya Varela. With us having just 3 forwards, all goal hanging. There's a distinct lack of options and, well, players just fending the middle of the pitch for us now. But we've got to try something. Cox bringing it forward. He tucks it away. We've just not turned up in this game. I think this has been our big issue this year. In some of the big games against the likes of Man City, even the United game we lost, the Liverpool game, we look really up for it. But in some of these kind of games against some of the middling opposition, I think back to the 3-0 defeat we had against Leicester, there are just games where we lack a bit of quality. And of course, the omission of Steve Secker from the starting 11 and also not having Adrian Smith, they are, 2 of our best players. So for them not to be available is always going to be a problem. But it's been shocking. There is no other way of looking at it. Referee, we've played 2 minutes over the added time you agreed to. Don't let them score a 4th. Sarr, I mean, look at the men we've got forward. Amlo, dinks it to Stewart. There's men streaming forward, left, right and centre. Can we get a consolation? Samake's there. We have got a consolation. It means absolutely nothing. I'm not even sure we deserve that. I mean, the one silver lining, Samake continuing to score goals, everyone. Leighton Stewart brings it forward. Probably should have squared it. Bit fortunate the way the ball falls to Samake, but we've avoided some embarrassment, maybe. I mean, if people don't choose to look at the stats for the game or watch Match of the Day, they might think it was a closer match than it is. 3-1. Not happy. Not happy, lads. We need to be better than that. That was a real opportunity to, push ourselves further into the Champions League spots and at least the Europa League spots. And with that result, you can see here, everyone kind of catches up with us. Looking at things, Sheffield United won 3-0 against Wolves. That's a really big result for them. Liverpool drew with Man City. Chelsea yet to play. But it's very close. And Leicester drew against Man City as well. This is a very bizarre season. There are a lot of teams massively underperforming. This could be one of the lowest points totals ever needed to get a Champions League spot the way things are going. Which I suppose kind of works in our favour, maybe. Either way, maybe that's food for thought. Maybe I need to go out there and look at attacking options, especially with Secker out at the African Cup of Nations for the foreseeable future. In terms of when we're going to be back, I imagine we'll come back probably in March. The fixture congestion eases up. If we go on a little FA Cup run, maybe we will come back for some FA Cup action. If I'm not mistaken, that's one of the only trophies that Clough never won at Nottingham Forest, the FA Cup. So maybe that's what we should have our eyes on in the shorter term. Anyway, if we just have a look at the little youth development centre here, you can see that we've got our youth preview coming through. We've got an excellent group of players. Doesn't say it's a golden generation, but there's reasons to be optimistic. Hopefully, after a few years of duds, this coming year is going to be a better year for youth intakes. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up all from me today. Disappointing result in the live com. Feels like it's one of the first times this season where I can truly say that. Hopefully we will be back better and stronger tomorrow. I hope to see you guys then. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.